Welcome everyone to Original Marketing Content versus AI. Do you have to choose? And in today's webinar, KNWCC member Afton Brazzoni of Scribe National will be sharing her experience as a leader in content strategy, and you will learn the importance of originality. Find out why originality matters so much in marketing and content creation, and how to turn your unique ideas into a real business impact. You'll learn how to master research-driven content, how to conduct thorough research to uncover insights that inform both your content strategy and creation, and navigating AI. We'll explore how to leverage AI tools effectively without compromising the authenticity and credibility of your brand's content. So I'm pretty excited about this because, I've just been dabbling in using AI. So I'm really excited for this presentation today. So my name is Jenna Clockley, and I am the Director of Membership and Community here at the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce, or CanWCC as we call it for short. My pronouns are she, her, and I live and work on the unceded and unsurrendered lands of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Ojibwe-Cree, the Dakota, and the Dene peoples, and home to the Métis Nation covered in Treaty 1, colonially known as Winnipeg, Manitoba. And if you are looking for the lands that you are on, you can visit native-land.ca for the treaties and the original keepers of what is known as Canada today. The Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce is the first and only chamber of commerce for diverse women identified and non-binary business owners in Canada. And as a chamber of commerce, we represent your needs with the government, and our position and title as a chamber give us access to those people who impact change. And we exist to improve the quality of life for the over 1 million entrepreneurial Canadian women through advocacy with policymakers. And we aim to build a healthier and more inclusive Canadian economy. We are here to amplify the stories and the voices of diverse women and non-binary entrepreneurs and to fight for their economic equity. And now let me introduce your host today, CanWCC member, Afton Brazzoni. Afton is the founder of Scribe National, a content strategy and writing studio that partners with B2B technology and leadership companies, as well as entrepreneurs. Afton's firm has had the pleasure of working with more than 80 clients in the past 5 years, the majority being repeat customers, including tech unicorns like Pipe, Retool, and Wealthsimple, and others among Canada's 50 fastest growing companies like Touch Bistro. Closer to home, she is proud to serve Alberta-based clients like AWE, Calgary Economic Development, SAIT, and Smart Technologies. And writing isn't just Afton's day job. It is a craft that she has been honing professionally for over 15 years. As a former news reporter, Afton has built her company with a journalistic approach, and that means her clients' content is original, expert level, and impactful. So welcome, Afton. So excited for this presentation.
Thank you so much for having me, Jenna. I always really enjoy working with CanWCC, speaking with this group. I see some friendly faces in the audience that I know as well. So it's great to have everybody here. Now, Jenna already covered this, but I'm just going to do a little quick recap of what we're actually going to go over for the next hour. And as Jenna mentioned, I'm really happy for this to be an interactive session. It certainly doesn't only need to be me talking. So if you do have a question, please feel free to, either turn on your camera if you like, no pressure if you don't want to, and either write it in the chat or come out off the mic and just ask the group. But the main things that we're going to talk about first will be how to transform your unique and original ideas into real business impact. And so what I'm really talking about here is content. That's a lot of the ways that we do communicate our ideas now, especially if our work is related to really sort of promoting and selling our own knowledge. And so I'll get into that. The next thing we'll talk about is how to find insights that inform your content strategy and creation. So, okay, we know we need to get out there and communicate our ideas, but how do we actually come up with the content topics that we're going to be sharing? And then how to use AI tools without sacrificing your brand's authenticity and credibility. So one thing I always really like to do at the beginning of every talk is just to have anybody who wants to pop into the chat and just share the business that you run. It's helpful to kind of get a sense of, we typically have a really diverse group of business owners, and I love to always see what area everybody's working in. So if you would like to share, feel free to pop into the chat and just share what the business you run is, the name of the company and the type of work that you do. I'm not going to go too much into my own bio since Jenna did such an excellent job covering it and introducing me. So I think really what I would probably just say is that the through line through my 15-year career has really been storytelling and helping people tell their stories, whether that's being in journalism or communications or marketing. And Scribe National itself is actually celebrating our 5th anniversary next week. And so it's just been such a honor to work with clients and over that time, to see how the marketing landscape has changed, right? And AI has been one of the biggest changes that we've seen on the marketing landscape in a very long time. And we can absolutely learn, to really make it work for us. Of course, I know that marketing is complicated enough already, and there's a lot to focus on. There's a lot to learn and a lot to do. But I'm actually just going to answer the question of the presentation title up front. No, you don't have to choose between original content and AI. And, I would actually argue that it wouldn't be prudent to choose one or the other. Obviously, it's a personal choice, right? We have some people who do prefer not to use it at all, some folks who just love it. It's a personal choice, but I do think that having a mix of both original content and AI is really, really important. And in fact, I actually created this presentation with the help of AI, but I didn't let it drive the bus. I used my expertise to direct it, and that's the key. So if you just came for that answer, that's it. But I do encourage you to stay for the deep dive, and I really think it'll be worth it. And like I said, if you have questions at any point, please don't hesitate to ask. So why are we even talking about this? Here's the thing. Content marketing is no longer a new marketing discipline. And it's safe to say that all businesses in 2024, regardless of whether they market directly to consumers or they market to other businesses, need some type of marketing content. And you can see in the chat here that we do have a really diverse group of business owners, some who do market directly to consumers and some who do market directly to other businesses. And so regardless of what line of work, what industry you're in, you are going to be needing to promote and talk about your company, because as people always say, if nobody knows you, then no one can buy from you. And just to kind of sort of ground this in a bit of statistics, I always like to do that a little bit. This is probably my only slide with stats. I don't like to do it too heavily, but just a bit to set the stage. 90% of marketers do include content in their marketing strategies. So we know that this is really, really prevalent. We also know it's effective. Content marketing increases lead generation, according to 74% of companies. And 58% of B2B marketers have reported increased sales and revenue in 2023, thanks to content marketing. And because return on investment in content can be pretty tricky to track, I would actually suspect that this number is even higher. So that kind of sets the stage as to why are we even talking about original content versus AI? Because it's pretty undeniable that we need content to market our business. So the question then becomes, how are we actually going to go about that? Now, in case you're wondering what exactly content marketing is and why it matters for your company, I like to just share a quick standard definition from an industry thought leader, Neil Patel. Some of the marketers in the group will know who that is. But really, he's just someone who's built quite a lot of companies and has contributed a lot to the industry, especially in the SEO and digital spaces. So he says, content marketing is a long-term strategy that focuses on building a strong relationship with your target audience by providing them with high-quality content that's relevant to them on a consistent basis. So a couple things stick out here: relationships, quality. And this is really going to be a theme throughout this talk. The idea is that eventually when customers make a purchase decision, their loyalty already lies with you. So in contrast to outbound tactics like advertising, which nothing wrong with that, I advertise for my own business, it's just different because it's more of a two-way street, right? There's more value that you're adding with content than with a tactic like advertising. Content marketing is really all about building trust and showing that you care about your audience beyond making a sale. So I think that you can maybe already see here how I'm going to set this up. If we're talking about relationships and if we're talking about trust, that is not something that we can or should completely outsource to AI. I have even seen LinkedIn posts recently that's, and this might be a little controversial, but they say things like, if you can't be bothered to write the content, why should I be bothered to read it? And so that's just something to think about. And again, this is not an anti-AI presentation at all. I'm actually going to be sharing tools at the end showing you how to use it in workflows. But it's just thinking about coming at this from a relationship first perspective. Now, when I talk about content, I just want to give a few examples of what I mean by that as well. This could be written content like blog posts or customer stories, lead magnets like ebooks, podcasts, videos, email marketing, social media content. These tools all work to generate leads and sales for your company, again, by building those strong relationships that we know are critical to attracting and keeping customers. But of course, they can take a lot of time to create, especially if you want to make them high quality. So enter generative AI. We've likely all heard rumblings about AI for years. This is actually not new. The thing is that is new is sort of the level of prevalence in the market and the level of interest in this. Now, in November of 2022, ChatGPT was released to the public, and it racked up 1 million users in the first 5 days on the market. Since then, AI has dominated conversations, not only in technology and in marketing, but in countless industries. I really don't know that there's been an industry that hasn't been affected by this. I guess I said I wasn't going to have a lot more stats, but I have a few more. So according to Forbes Advisor, a staggering 97% of business owners believe that ChatGPT will benefit their businesses. 1 in 3 businesses plan to use ChatGPT to create website content. Over 60% of business owners believe AI will increase productivity. And specifically, 64% have stated that it would improve business productivity. And 42% believe it will streamline job processes. But there's always a flip side, right? So we also have 43% of businesses reporting that they're concerned about technology dependence. And an additional 35% worry about having the technical skills to use AI effectively. We've suddenly been handed the keys to this powerful sports car that's going to accelerate our marketing in a way that we've really never had access to before. But do we know how to drive it, right? Do we know how to handle the turns? Now, another final statistic that I'll share is 24% of business owners do express concern about AI's potential impact on their website traffic, reflecting the uncertainties that some businesses face when it comes to integrating AI into their operations. We're not experts on this. Even myself, I am certainly an expert on content, but there are so many other aspects to this. There's the legal side of AI, there's the ethical side. And I'm definitely not up here claiming to fully understand that either. And that's something we'll talk about, and it's something to watch out for. So the feelings are mixed, right? But at the end of the day, we all want to save time in our businesses. And I think that that is something that's probably universal. And as women entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who identify as women, this is especially critical. We just really don't have a ton of extra time to spend creating content. And AI is something that can help us with that. And although I have referred, and I'm going to refer to ChatGPT quite a bit, it's absolutely not the only generative AI tool. There's Claude, Copy AI, Jasper, the list goes on. I think we might have someone maybe needing to mute themselves if you'd be able to do that. Okay, perfect. And why this matters is we have to use AI properly, or it can actually risk harming our brand and our credibility. And so that's really what I want to talk about today, so that you'll leave equipped to create high quality original content and leverage generative AI in your business, because it can absolutely be a both and. Okay, so first thing I really want to get across, if I asked you, how your business is different from others in your market that offer similar products or services, would you be able to tell me how? And you don't have to pop out and answer this, but if you can put in the chat, if you'd like to, if you'd be able to answer yes to that question, you can just put a yes in the chat. Would you be able to tell me how your business is different from others in your market that offer similar products or services? Okay, we've got some yeses coming in already, some maybes. Now, if you answered yes, this is because nobody does what you do exactly the way you do it or for the reasons you do it. I would argue it's probably literally impossible for there to be a fingerprint on a business with the passions, the motivations, the life experiences, the expertise that are exactly like yours. I don't think that is possible. We really are all distinct. Now, if you answered no, which I don't think we have anyone who answered no, but even if you didn't share, maybe you were thinking no, but you didn't put it in the chat, I would challenge you that there probably is something that differentiates you and makes you unique, but we will leave that for another day. But just know that it's pretty likely that there is. Original content is critical for showcasing your business's unique value. And this becomes even more important if you're operating in a mature or saturated market like a lot of us are. Now, I know there's some who own brick and mortar, there's some who have an online business. Certainly for us in the online industry, 2021, 2022, those were boom years. Like I was turning work away. The market is not like that anymore. And so again, this becomes really, really important, this differentiation. If driving traffic to your website is a priority, original content also matters. Now, and this isn't an SEO presentation, but there has been a lot of things happening with SEO lately, and I do want to briefly mention that. So let's have a look at this. Here is the tea, straight from Google, as they say. So there was an algorithm update that was fairly significant in March of 2024. And basically what Google said about this is that it led to larger quality improvements than they originally thought. And so this was reported in an SEO publication, Search Engine Land. It's really great if you do want to learn more about SEO, just do a deep dive into any of their articles. Basically, what was said is you'll now see 45% less low quality, unoriginal content in search results versus the 40% improvement they expected. So what's clear here is originality matters. Now, when we think of originality, we often think it's the opposite of AI generated content. That is partially true, but there's a nuance that I need to explain here because Google has also said not all use of automation, including AI generation, is spam. Automation has long been used to generate helpful content like sports scores, weather forecast transcripts. So that's, probably not what you're using it to generate, but basically this leads us to believe that Google isn't outright saying not to use AI in your content creation process. And I'm going to get to that. However, using it to write the entirety of your content is likely not going to pan out well because in that case, the content would be unoriginal in nature and that could potentially harm your search rankings. But if someone is saying, Google penalizes content that's written by AI, that's actually not entirely true. We just need to think about this from a quality perspective. So a lot of the conversations with content marketers that our team is part of on LinkedIn and in Slack groups also share this viewpoint. And it's likely why original research has been on the uptick among bloggers almost every year since 2018. You can see here, and what I mean by original research, it could be something like doing a subject matter expert interview for your blog post, as opposed to kind of looking on the internet for what else has been written and just sort of regurgitating that. That's kind of what I mean by that. Now, we have established that content marketing is a vehicle for transforming your ideas into impact, right? It goes back to if they don't know about you, there's really no way to build brand affinity, right? Then if there's no brand affinity and there's no differentiation, why would they choose you over someone else? And so that's what content solves. And we've established that originality does matter. So here's an example of how you can actually create original content in a way that's sustainable. And again, there's going to be some resources available afterwards that dive a little bit deeper into this, but I want to walk through a hypothetical situation. So let's say you own a consultancy specializing in leadership coaching for mid-level managers working in large enterprises. So for the purposes of this example, let's say that your area of specialty is leadership confidence. So it's not just leadership generically. You have a specific area, it's leadership confidence. And you want to create content that shares your distinct point of view on this topic and cements you as an expert in the space. That's really what you want to do. So step one, you create a large flagship piece of content. So for example, this could be an ebook. This is something that somebody downloads to get on your email list. The title is, Why is Confidence Critical to Mid-Level Leadership? Step two, you break that down into multiple content formats. And so a couple examples of how to do that would be, you create a series of 5 blog posts. Each one focuses on a different chapter from the ebook. Then you splice the blog posts into social media content. You do 10 graphics with quotes and insights from each chapter. A 1 to 2 minute video, maybe if you're someone that's comfortable with video, you do a 1 to 2 minute video. And honestly, after I said that, I realized, like, would you even do that nowadays? It's probably got to be 15 seconds. You probably have to do a 15-second video summarizing each chapter or sharing a key insight. Then maybe you host a LinkedIn Live or an Instagram Live where you're discussing topics from the ebook. That can be a bit longer than 15 seconds. Maybe you're answering audience questions in real time. You could create a series of emails. Maybe you've got 5 emails that go out where each one summarizes a chapter of this ebook. We're still on just this one piece of content, just this ebook where you've gotten all of this other content from. You could create infographics. You could host a series of webinars. Maybe one is top 5 confident communication strategies for leaders, or steps to building an effective team through confident leadership. Podcast episodes, right? It goes on and on and on. And so that's what I mean by, and we'll talk about this, leveraging AI to take something that's original and to make it have so much more bandwidth for you and your business. Now, I do want to mention the implementation piece as well. This is the check mark here on the slide. So the ebook or anything else that you create doesn't have to be an ebook, but it will only be valuable if you promote it widely and get as many eyeballs on it as possible. So the idea here is to commit to a consistent and frequent publishing schedule. And the repurposing plan that you follow can really get you content from anywhere from 3 to 6 months until it's time to kind of pivot your strategy or focus on the next thing. And again, because we know originality is critical, the idea here is to start with your unique perspective, your thought leadership. You create the ebook based on your own research and your own opinions. But everything else, you use AI to help you. You can actually even use it to help you with the ebook in terms of outlining it and what the structure and the flow can look like. But again, the writing should come from your own thought leadership, subject matter expert interviews, perhaps there's client interviews that you include. Now, you could flip this. You could start with another long form piece of content, like a podcast episode script, if you're thinking, well, an ebook's not really my thing. So you take that script. Again, you've come into that podcast. You're the one speaking. It's your ideas. That's not something that you've allowed AI to direct for you. But you're coming in, you're getting that long form piece of content, and you're taking that podcast script, and you're essentially you could follow the same plan that I just presented. So this is how you turn your ideas into real business impact using content marketing. Everybody's results will vary, and a lot of factors will go into this. A full content strategy really is needed to cover, but I just want to share a snapshot of how content can drive impact. And so these are from a few of our own clients. Again, a single piece of content, 300 email subscribers, 30,000 views on a single blog post in 1 month. That is, again, largely due to that own client's content strategy. It's really doesn't happen in a vacuum, and I do want to emphasize that. But after the session, I'm going to share a link so that you can see a content repurposing workflow that I've sort of mapped out for you that is an example that you can kind of tailor into your own business. And there will be a few other resources in there too. So this obviously begs the question, what do you need to do or to have in place to actually create a piece of original content that you can then use AI to repurpose. So before you can successfully execute a content project like this and leverage AI to help, you need brand messaging and a content strategy. So I'm not going to do a deep dive on either of these things today. I talk about these in other talks, and we've got a lot of blogs on the Scribe National website that go into this. But it comes up because it's critical to using AI successfully. And for anybody who's played with the tool, you know that the more you can tell it about your brand, your voice, the audience you're targeting, the better output you get from it. And so when we're thinking about brand messaging, we're really thinking about things like mission, vision, values, brand personality, voice, and tone, brand story, and then, unique value proposition and messaging for buyers who are at different stages. Not everybody's ready to buy right now. There's a lot of people in the awareness stage who are just getting to know your business or who have no idea it exists. You need different messages for those people than you do for somebody who's further down the marketing funnel, who's, looking for more education or solution-based content, or again, for somebody who's actually ready to make a decision. That's a whole other topic on its own, but all of this just to say, brand messaging is something critical that you want in place before you start asking an AI tool to generate content for you. And then a content strategy, this is exactly what it sounds like. This is a plan for your content. And at a basic level, it includes content goals, the audience, the tactics and channels that you're planning to use to reach that audience, and the metrics that you want to hit. And so if you have good messaging and strategy to work from, you can really create an outstanding piece of original flagship content that you can use AI to build a content engine that's going to fuel your marketing for months to come. Now, how do you actually get there? So I want to talk about 3 ways to gather insights that will inform both your messaging and content strategy. And this is where you really got to sort of just put your head down and do the work. And so the first one is market research. So this could be sending out a survey. It could be sitting down with somebody and doing a questionnaire. It could be a focus group or even competitor analysis. But really what this involves is actually talking to your market. It's so important. It's something that you cannot outsource. It needs to be done. The second thing, dig into analytics. So this could be if you've got Google Analytics on your website, have a look. I think there's a lot of times where we let months or maybe even years go by where we have these tools and we know we have the data, but we don't actually look at it. So what's the visitor behavior on your website like? Which content pieces are people engaging with most? If you have a blog, which blogs are performing the best? And if you don't have that, that's fine too. Like, go to your social media. Look at which posts are getting the most shares, the most comments, the most likes. Some people argue that these are sort of vanity metrics, but the thing is if this is what you've got, a lot of us, we don't have these big, elaborate software tools that large enterprises use to collect data. So we want to be a little bit scrappy. We want to use what we have, and any signals that we can get that show us, okay, these are the topics that people are most interested in. Those are all valuable signals. Email marketing, for example, you can track obviously your open rates, click-through rates, conversion rates of your email campaigns. So I would argue, that you can and should be doing that, and it's super, super useful. And then again, customer feedback. So feedback forms, testimonials, or interviews. What do people say is the impact of working with you? Why did they decide to buy from you over somebody else? These are all things that we want to be communicating in our content. But if we don't know the answer, it obviously makes it quite hard to do that. So once you have some of this data, plan to create content around the topics that resonate most and drive the highest engagement. You want to prioritize ideas with the highest potential impact and feasibility. And so what I mean by that is high impact, as in, that it resonates with people. It's likely to drive some sort of result that may not be a sale, but it might be another important result, like email signups, webinar signups, even someone following you on social media. And then feasibility. Okay, it's high impact, but is it going to take a Herculean effort to execute this? We likely don't want that. We want something that is reasonable to execute. Now, I'm not saying that you need like a 20-page brand or content strategy document, but you do need core brand messaging and a simple strategy that your content creation can really lean on. And again, this is especially true if you're relying on AI. It actually becomes even more true because you need that messaging and that strategy to feed in to actually tell the tool what to do for you. Taking the time to lay a strategic foundation like this will really ensure that you're communicating clearly about who you are, what you do, and who you serve. And it will help you create content for customers at every stage of that journey that I talked about a little bit earlier. So awareness, education, decision. Whether they're just getting to know you or ready to make a purchase, we want to be strategic about this. So I do have, I just want to take a little pause before we move on to the third topic, which is, how to actually use AI tools without sacrificing authenticity and credibility. I know I could use a sip of water, but one thing I would really like to know is what has come up. Does anyone have any questions so far? Because I know we've been going fast, and it's kind of a heavy topic. So yeah, if you have questions, please feel free to either put them in the chat or just pop out and ask before we move on to the next and final topic. And if you don't have questions and you're kind of just digesting it, how dare you? No, I'm just kidding. It's actually completely fine. Yeah, just digest it. All right, on to our last topic here. So to recap, we've already talked about how to transform your unique and original ideas into real business impact. And then we've talked about how to find the insights that inform your content strategy and creation. And so that all really comes down to there's nobody who does what you do in exactly the way that you do it. And you do need some research because we can't base this on what we think our market wants to hear. Pretty much sums up the two things we just covered. So I want to go into how to actually use AI tools. Obviously, by now, we're all aware that in certain cases, it can speed up content creation. I actually want to be careful of saying that AI and generative AI always speeds up content creation. Obviously, we know that it can spit out content very, very quickly. And so I'm not arguing with that. But sometimes, depending on what you get, the time that you have to take to edit it, fact check it, we'll go through some of the pitfalls. But it can speed up content creation. It doesn't always. But remember, just to call back to that Forbes stat that I shared earlier, 97% of business owners do believe that ChatGPT will benefit their business. So I don't think we can argue or that I need to convince anybody that it can help you, because it can help you, but it's about using it right. Obviously, the hype has been pretty strong since the end of 2022. The results have been so-so. And so over the past 6 months, I have found that conversations among my peers in the marketing industry have really shifted away from just kind of blanket excitement to kind of, how do we actually use AI the right way? Because nobody wants to sound exactly like everyone else on the internet. Like that is absolutely a recipe for just, unfortunately, being forgettable. And we really want to avoid that. And yes, AI generated content can often lack the originality and the creativity that human writers bring to the table. And this can make things sound repetitive. It can make things sound generic. It can make things not sound like your brand, especially if you don't have your brand voice and brand messaging nailed down. That's really where you kind of run the risk of that. And when we have impersonal or robotic content, the problem with that, other than it just not being super enjoyable to engage with, is that it can actually alienate your audience and be less effective. And so if you're going to put in the time, you want it to be as effective as possible. Now, accuracy can also be a problem. And again, this is, getting into an area where we do want to consider even like the legal implications. AI tools are improving, but they're not infallible. Even if you go to ChatGPT, at the bottom, it says, ChatGPT can make mistakes, like check your content. You can have factual errors, You can have awkward phrasing, which is a little bit less serious, but still not great. This requires human oversight to ensure accuracy and coherence. And then, of course, there is also the plagiarism issue. And these tools do sometimes generate text that is literally a word-for-word copy of text on another website. And I have seen this myself numerous times. So kind of sounds doom and gloom, right? What is a busy business owner to do? What you do is you lean on your brand messaging that we talked about earlier, and you never forget the human touch. Humans excel at creating content that resonates emotionally with readers, which is something that AI still struggles to achieve. Storytelling, humor, empathy, those are all areas where a human touch is essential for building meaningful connections with potential buyers. So again, there's a couple things you can do. Always cross-check content against the attributes in your brand messaging playbook. So if you've got a brand messaging like playbook, Bible, strategy, whatever you like to call it, it may have a section, and I recommend that it has a section, where it lists out your brand, personality, and voice in simple attributes. This doesn't have to be complicated, literally word for word attributes. Then you want to check that, right? So 2 tips to help you do that. Ensure the content that you've generated with an AI tool reflects your brand voice. So are you direct? Are you contrarian? Maybe you're not contrarian, but maybe you actually like to get a little academic when you discuss certain topics. Or maybe you are just very, very laid back, and that's your brand voice and personality. So is the content actually reflecting this? And does it sound like you want it to sound? Does it sound like everything that you used to put out before you had access to these tools? And then ensure it contains a key message. So what I mean by that is the key points about your company that you want your audience to know, or the things that you care about that you talk about often. Original content and the importance of it is very much a key message of my brand. Talking about how to use AI responsibly has become something that's been a newer addition to my brand. But again, these are the things I talk about. This is what I want to be known for. So what are those things for you? You should weave them into your content regularly. And this really is how you become known for something specific, you differentiate yourself, and you build credibility. So typically for my company, we only talk about 3 things: brand messaging, content strategy, and content writing. Jenna probably knows this by now. Anyone who's been to any of my talks before, it kind of starts sounding like a broken record. That's actually what you want. I got a text from a friend the other day, and she asked me if I could help her with her social media. And I thought, oh my goodness, oh no, I'm not doing my job as a marketer. My company doesn't do social media. And so to have someone, not know what we do, like that's always a bit alarming. We all want people to understand what we actually do. And we can't do that unless we talk about it repeatedly. And that's what key messages are for. So I want to walk through a couple of prompt examples for integrating AI tools with human input. Now, again, there's going to be more in the resources folder on this, but in case you're unfamiliar with the prompt, it's literally just the descriptive text that you use to ask a generative AI tool to write content for you. So I touched on this slightly earlier, but the better your input, so the better the prompt, the better your output, the better the content that you get will be. So this first example, I'm not going to read it, but this is one that's kind of mediocre. It's not very specific, and the results are very generic sounding. So I actually had AI write this prompt and then generate the social media post. So I'm going to flip the slide here. This is what it generated. It's okay, right? And again, you'll get the slides afterwards, but prompt number 2. So you can already see like heavy text. We've got said a lot more here. It's longer. I wrote this prompt. And when I flip the slide, I'll show you, like, I think that the social media posts that the AI tool generated were better because there was more to work with the prompt, but I would still make a few improvements in the editing phase. So again, I don't expect even you to read, this was quite a long prompt. You can read this when you get the slides later, but the idea, I just want to show you really the difference in the level of detail that went into it. This is what we got back. And I know it's hard unless I'm kind of flipping around, which I don't really want to do because I don't want to give everyone googly eyes here, but I will have these on the slides. You can really take a look, dissect them, see for yourself. Now, I want to look at some best practices for blending AI and human generated content. So I want to actually open up another resource here. So just bear with me for a moment. I'll flip back to that prompt so that you can read it in the meantime, but I just want to open something up here.
Afton, that first prompt that you shared, that one was generated by AI, like you said.
Yeah, the first one was, and it was okay, right? Like it's not terrible. There's nothing crazy wrong with it or anything, but it just, oh, go ahead.
The second one was like human written, where you went a little bit more in depth, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so sorry, I've got to get all my stuff sorted here. Okay, so I have this thing I want to share. And now I'm going to switch the screen share. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Okay. Oops. Oh no.
Just while you're doing that, I had a question about prompts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you actually enter all that text, all 4 paragraphs, into the AI tool?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, I'm clearly using it wrong because I put 1 sentence.
I mean, like, there's no wrong. It's just about the quality that you're going to get back, right? And so I personally feel that the more detailed you can be, the higher quality and the more relevant it will be. Now, can everyone, okay, yeah, everyone can see this because I can see it too, which is a lovely feature of Circle. If I'm when you're on Zoom, it's like, you don't know. Can everybody see it? So what we are looking at here is, this is one of the resources that you'll get afterwards, but it's best practices for blending AI and human generated content. And so what I've done is broken it down into like different stages. So strategic planning, humans develop the overall strategy. AI assists in generating ideas. Idea generation. Humans refine the ideas. Well, no, so this one we actually go to AI first. AI tools brainstorm ideas based on trending topics and audience interests. Humans refine the ideas, adding a unique perspective and aligning them with your brand's values, right? That's the things where only you are going to have, like our values, for example, excellence, dedication, originality, and curiosity. I mean, maybe there's another company that has that exact same set of values, but it's unique to us, right? Content creation. So the human is going to provide the creative direction, and then the AI will generate the initial drafts. Then we kind of go back to the human here. Creativity, original research, personal anecdotes. You've got to put those in. Storytelling elements, ensuring it aligns with the brand voice. Editing and review. So if you've ever used something like Grammarly, that's been around way before ChatGPT. That's also a form of AI. It can help you do those initial checks of grammar. But the human is going to actually establish the process, so the standard operating procedure. How are we going to review AI content? This becomes more important if you have a bigger team. But what are we looking for? Accuracy, tone, coherence. Editing will cut down the better the prompts, right? And the more you use this. Publishing and distribution. Let me make sure you can see everything else that's here. Publishing and distribution. Deciding on final approval, obviously you want to do that. You don't want to leave that to AI. And then automated tools. So if you use something like Hootsuite, right? That's using technology to help you. Scheduling these social media posts so that you don't have to post them manually. Content analysis. AI can analyze data for you. You can interpret the insights. Ethical considerations. Ensure that everything is ethically produced, respecting privacy and intellectual property. And then regularly audit AI generated content for compliance. Now, this is where, like I said, it becomes a little more advanced, and you may want to do your own research and kind of dive into how you actually tackle those things. So, okay, I'm going to switch back here. So I always click the wrong, oh no, oops. Okay. Okay. Technology. All right. So I want to just kind of go over what we've covered. So we've talked about how to transform unique and original ideas into real business impact, how to find insights that inform your content strategy and creation, and how to use AI tools without sacrificing authenticity and credibility. And so a couple takeaways here that are really, really key. Employing a balanced use of original content and AI. You know, the key is not to choose between one or the other, but simply to use them together in a wise and thoughtful way. Original content isn't going anywhere. You know, I think I've established that. I actually don't think I'm going to say anything more on that. You should be leveraging content repurposing. So again, there's going to be an example for you, but the idea is to start with something that's comprehensive, high quality, a large piece of content based on your unique ideas and research, and splice this up, repurpose it using AI. It can help you a lot with things like outlines. And then, you know, really you're coming in with human expertise to kind of directing what you want. Do you want social posts? Do you want short emails? Do you want a blog post? Things like that. And then, of course, maintaining brand authenticity and trust is paramount. So it can take us a very long time as marketers and business owners to build brand trust. It can take us a second to lose it. And so we really do want to be careful about how we're approaching these things. And we never want somebody to think that thought that I saw in that LinkedIn post, if you can't be bothered to write it, why should I be bothered to read it? We don't want them to think that, right? We want them to know and to understand that even if you have used AI because you live in the real world and you need to save time, that it's coming from a place that originated at something that you actually believe, that you actually created, and that is flowing out into a repurposing workflow, right? That you have taken the time and you do care about your audience. And it's not about that. It's about using it wisely to save time. So my recommendation to you before we wrap up today is really just to think about how you can turn your ideas and approach to your business into some sort of flagship piece of content or cornerstone content, whatever you want to call it, that you can then leverage AI to repurpose. And of course, to think about those best practices. You know, once you get that Google Doc, like have a look through, think about the ways that you can make sure everything is authentic and high quality, but that you're also, you know, not shying away from this technology and that you're letting it assist you in your business. And this leads into my final point for today. So if you don't yet have brand messaging in place to start using AI in a way that sounds like you, I have a free resource up here that you can, it's complete with action steps. You can download it to help you kind of get some brand messaging in place. And then if you want to take a deeper dive, I am offering free 1-hour strategy calls, not a sales call, completely a diagnostic call. Really, it's just for you to walk away with a little bit of guidance on your messaging and content strategy so that, again, you can take that and leverage AI going forward. So you can use the link there to book one of those if you'd like. But okay, let me close this out. Okay. I really just want to thank you for taking the time to be here. I know that there was a lot, there were lots of stats, there was lots of heavy topics, but it's critical. How you show up matters. And you've totally got this, and it doesn't have to be complicated. You can really use AI and win with this. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Afton. This was a really great presentation. I know I was like, oh my gosh, my prompts are so short. I generally I'm not using this the way I could. So all of these pieces in this presentation were just so powerful. And we have about 9 minutes left. If anybody wants to, pick Afton's brain, ask a question here about using AI and original content, now's your one-on-one chance. You have an expert right here. I will come off mute. Oh, yeah, there we go. Go, Millie.
Yeah, so it would appear that there is no such thing as a prompt that's too long.
There could be, I don't know, but I think it's a balance. The thing that we want to remember is if you're using it to save time, you don't want to have to sit there for an hour and write a prompt. And that's why I do recommend, there's articles out there on kind of how to train these tools. And if you give it your brand messaging and you give it your audience, my understanding is that with training these tools, you can give them those things once. Obviously, you remain logged into the tool with your own account. you give them those things, and then the hope is that it learns, and that over time it takes less input from you. But I mean, yes, I do think the more detail, the better. I wouldn't get too hung up on, does it have to be super, super long, but it's just, does it contain what it needs to actually get you the best content? And I see that Jennifer has said here in the chat, the quality output of one sentence has been poor. And that doesn't surprise me, right? Like we want to give it a bit more, but you also want to make sure that you don't look up at the clock and it's been 2 hours that you've been, trying to write this prompt. I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or, insights into using AI? I can see.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. If like what people's experiences have been, even if it's not a question. I think that's always really interesting.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Hi, Afton. Met you through Higher Landing, and I've just finished up my Higher Landing program. I used AI in that whole process. So the Higher Landing is a career transformation program. And I kept putting in things about my brand, and it would spit out stuff that sometimes I would say, okay, that's great. That's something that I would use. I like the way you said that. And other times I'm thinking, no, this isn't good. I'm also using it. Yeah. And that's where the whole authenticity piece comes in. You read what it said and you say, okay, some good words in here, but I'm going to change the wording for my purposes. And right now, I'm working with a client. They're a small foundation that just got a big chunk of money. And so they want to create a policy and procedures manual to guide how they're going to give this money out. And I thought, oh goodness, a policy and procedures manual, that's going to take forever. So I went out and I looked for a bunch of other foundation policy and procedures manuals, put them into ChatGPT, and I said, okay, give me an outline, And then I was able to go in and put in the content from that foundation. And it also highlighted things where I needed to do research, or I needed to consult with the foundation on what they wanted to do. So, I mean, I really loved what you had to say, Afton, about, using it as a tool. It's a helper. I actually call her Chatty Cathy.
I love it.
Yeah. And she's my executive assistant. Do some research for me, or outline something for me, and then take it from there. And that for me is the real time-saving piece. And then, I'm always one of those people who would rather edit than write. So if she's going to write something for me, then I can go in and edit and make it my own. That'll make me happy.
Yes, that's perfect. Two things I want to call out from what you said, Catherine. I think that's awesome and that's really insightful. To your first point about some things you put in, it's good. Some things the output's not good. Don't be afraid, to ask it again. So like even today, I was getting it to write a social media post for me. Didn't do what I wanted. So I just said, try again. Here's what I like. This is what worked about what you did, but I need this included as well. And then the second output was a little better. I still rewrite half of it about every time, but I mean, at least it gives you something to start with. And then you can tell it like, this is what worked about this is what didn't work. Second thing I would like that just made me think of what you said about the manuals. Obviously, those are all in the public domain, and I think that's a super smart usage of it. What I would caution people is if you're using, well, I'll just give you an example from my own business and maybe it will apply to yours. We write a lot of case studies for people. If I am taking let's say I was writing a case study for Catherine to tell the story of one of her clients. If I'm going to take a transcript of my conversation with her client and put that into an AI tool, I better have had, some type of conversation with her about what the policies and how we're going to do that, because from an ethical perspective, that's a private conversation. That's proprietary business information. Maybe Catherine doesn't want that in an AI tool. So just thinking about if you're using it in your work with clients, how to do that. Okay, Connor, I see you have your hand up as well there.
Here it is. Hello. Hey. So yeah, it is more of a comment because great material. I appreciate this. It's always nice to see other perspectives because I find we do kind of all get in our rabbit holes of working with GPTs. One thing I want to mention to people just is don't forget that there's other GPTs too, and I don't mean other systems. I mean people make GPTs as well. And that these are, and you can search in Chat GPT to find other GPTs, and they have different names. They have different purposes. Like there's people that have made ones that are specifically to build prompts for you, or specifically to make. They're specifically about social media, and so they do hashtags, and they do all the proper formatting for you. So those have been built by people, and they've already done a ton of the chain prompting for you. So use those too, and then you just add them to your side there, and and things like too. Sometimes ChatGPT will give you dumb things, like, or Dolly will, and one thing too, that I just was playing around with Dolly, and that's the image generator. And is it ever funny to work with? Because it doesn't know the difference between text and visuals, and I had to learn. I'm like, why can't it spell words right? And it just because it doesn't know the difference. And so, but then you take your image, if you really like it, you throw it into Canva, and then Canva has an AI in there that lets you capture those words and strip them out or correct them. So then you just layer other AIs to help previous AIs. So yeah, so just know about that stuff because it's really fun. And never, I know, like I did this for a while. I'd like be polite to it, and I'd like apologize, or like I'd say, please do it. Don't bother. Don't waste your time with that shit. Just tell it, no, wrong, do it again. And then it does it. Then it does it, and it'll apologize. Says sorry, and it'll bow, and then it'll do it again. And yeah. So just know that what it gives you once isn't what you're stuck with. Just tell it no again, or fix this, or different tone, or I want it to be under the voice of Captain Picard from Star Trek, and then it'll rewrite it under that. Like I'm doing all my blogs based on that now. Basically, I give them all personalities. So like Wolverine writes a blog for me. Captain Picard writes a blog for me. Moira Rose from Schitt's Creek writes a blog for, and it's just, it makes it so much fun. So anyway, that's my thoughts. Have fun with it. So yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I think that that's all really, really great information. And yeah, please, everybody go have a look at the different GPTs, and yes, have fun, of course.
I definitely apologize to ChatGPT and Connor. I think our blogs are going to have all the same personalities because those are who I would use if I needed my blog posts written. So that's funny. Well, we're at time now, everybody. Afton, I just want to thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. Thank you for bringing your knowledge and sharing so freely with the CanWCC community and all of the excellent work that you're doing at Scribe National.